Good afternoon. My name is Ben Roll. I'm an application engineer with Ally PLM Solutions. I want to welcome all of you to our Ally PLM Lunch Byte series. These sessions are designed to briefly explore the capabilities within Solid Edge that are often overlooked. In today's session, we're going to cover family of parts and family of assemblies. If you have any questions regarding today's session, please write them down and send them via email. Okay, so like I said, we're going to look at family of parts and family of assemblies. Some of the things we're going to look at is the concept of the master file, how to create family members, how to create separate model files, how to create alternate assemblies, define member properties, and use alternate assemblies inside of other documents like assemblies and drawings. First, we're going to look at family of parts and the concept of the master file. What the master file is the base file, and then on top of that you have each of the members that correspond to a different version of that part. So for the other members you can suppress features and you can change variables. When you create a family of parts, you're not going to put the master file into a drawing or other assembly file. The general rule is that the family member should be saved as the actual part number or part name, and the master file would just be saved as a dummy file so that you know not to edit the master file but to edit the members and put those inside of the drawings and the assemblies. So what you do is once you create the family parts, then you can populate each member or just a certain member from that family. One thing you'll notice that's different is you now have what you'll see with a synchronous part and what you'll have with an ordered part. The ordered part will work the same as it always has in the ordered environment. You'll have your features and your variables. And with synchronous, you'll now be able to control suppress live rules for that member and also the synchronous relationships. So now we're going to move over to Solid Edge. And you'll notice here I have a part and it already has two members in this family. So I can go ahead and select one from that drop down, hit apply, and you'll notice over here it's going to update that part. Now there are two ways to create members and to change variables, suppress features. You can do it here and use the new button up here, or you can go into the table, which is what we're going to do. So for this I'm just going to select long. I'm going to copy it, just call it new. Move that over here to the end. And we're going to come down and we'll suppress a few features and we'll change some of the variables. Then what I'll do, I'll come up here and select that member and say apply, and it'll ask me to save the changes that have been made to the table. Hit OK. And now over here you'll see that it updated and made those changes to the part. Like I mentioned before, if I wanted to, I could come in here and add other features to be suppressed or change variables. In order to do that, you'll notice that since I applied the member, it's showing that new member, and in order to get back to that master that contains all the family members, I have to click on this red X right here. And then since I still have new selected here, now I can come in here and select a feature, an ordered feature to suppress, and I can say suppress feature, and it'll add it down here. Now we're going to look at alternate assemblies, and there are two different types of alternate assemblies. There's one for alternate position and one that is family of assemblies. With the alternate position assembly, all the parts are going to be identical, and only the part positions can change. So this would work for showing, mechanisms, linkages, doors, that sort of thing. For the family of assemblies, most of the parts are identical, but some of them will be different. Maybe a subassembly will be different. So that's for stuff where maybe you have one configuration that has one door and one that has two, or you have trim that's different between the different models. First thing we're going to look at is the alternate position assembly. Like I mentioned, only the position is different, so relationships and offset values. For the family of assemblies, the positions can be different. You can replace components, you can delete components, and you can delete and redefine relationships. When you make these modifications, you can either make local modifications that only affect the active member, or you can apply the modifications to all the members in that family of assemblies. Another thing that you can do is define alternate components. So what this does is it'll allow you to put in components and choose between certain ones without them having to be inside of a family of parts. So when you create the alternate component, there are three different ways to define them. You can, if you have a family of parts, you can select from that family of parts and add those. Or you can run a search and search for the parts that you want to add. So once you've searched, you can add those. Or you can browse to the components that you want. So you just click the browse and go to wherever those parts are located. And once you've created alternate components, you'll see an icon in the Pathfinder that lets you know that that part has alternate components. We'll also look at the alternate assemblies table. That's the same way with the family of parts. It's just another way that you can change parts and see what parts you have available to put in. Okay, so first we're going to look at the family of assemblies. So you'll notice I don't have any created. First I'll go ahead and create a new one, and this is where you choose if you want to create a family of assemblies or if you want to create an alternate position assembly. And once you select this, you can't go back and change later on. This is, you select this now and that's what you're stuck with. So we want a family of assemblies, and we are going to go ahead and give this a name. And notice I named the current one and then the new member. So for this new member, we're going to say closed, so we want to rotate this handle around to close the valve. What we're going to want to do is select member variables because we want to add a rotation variable for that handle. So once we have that selected, we'll go over here to Tools, we'll go to the Variable table, and we'll select the valve angle, and we'll click this button over here to add it to the member variables. I'll just click here, and I'll change that to rotate it 90 degrees. You'll see the handle rotates, and now if I go back to the default open one that we started with, you'll see it's back at 0 degrees and it's open. Come back here, and we'll create a new member. And for this, I'll go ahead and set this back to 0. And what we're going to do is we're going to change this handle out for a different handle. So I'll go in here and I'll delete handle 1. It'll ask me if I'm sure I want to delete it. And because I only want this to be for this specific member, I want to make sure that apply edits to all members is cleared. That way it's only deleting it from this type 2 open member. Hit yes. And now if I come down here to excluded occurrences, you'll see handle 1 has been added there. I'm also going to turn off this nut, that way it's a little bit easier to see. Now I'll come out here and I'll bring in the new handle that we want to put on. So I'll go ahead and apply the relationships that I need. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is change this top part. So I'll come in here to the top flange, and if I wanted, I could define alternate components. That's located right here underneath the replace part. But I'm just going to go ahead and say replace part. I'm going to pick top flange 2 and say OK. And because that subassembly is a family of assemblies and it has 2 different configurations, it has 4 screws or 3 screws with stud, I can pick from those, or I can come in here to the dynamic configuration, and if I go into there, I'll have a list of all the parts that are in that subassembly and the configurations that are available. So if I want, I could come in here and say update selection list, and it'll tell me what's different over here. Or I could come in here and exclude, or in this case, this is the only one that has changed. I can select which one I want, and you'll notice down here it'll tell me what configuration has that. If I pick a configuration, or if I make selections up here and there is not a configuration that matches that, I can either create a new member or I can create an entirely new assembly. For this, we want the stud, so we'll go ahead and hit OK, and you'll see it updates that. Another thing you'll notice, I hid the nut in this configuration. If I go back to type 1 closed, or the default type that we started with, that nut is still shown. So when you make a change to the display like that, it only affects that one member and it won't affect all the other ones. Now we're going to come in here and we're going to go ahead and make another member for this. One thing I forgot to mention, you'll notice in the occurrence overrides, it'll list, because I did that replace part, it'll list what the occurrence used to be and what it's been overridden with. Now we're going to look at relationships. So I'll come in here to the handle and I'll select these two relationships and I'll just delete them, and now they'll show up over here. I'll go back in and make two new relationships. There. And make that change. Now there are a few other options under here. There are assembly features, frames, piping routes, pattern occurrences, and fasteners. All those things can also be changed in the family of assemblies, and that's where it will list those changes. Next thing we're going to look at is the alternate position family of assemblies. So you'll notice in here I only have this arm. And what I'm going to do, instead of going into the table and making these changes, I'm just going to go ahead and do it all in here. So I'll create a new member. And I'll change these both to 0. And notice the change there. Go ahead and create another one called elevated. And we'll go ahead and change the elevation to that. And we'll change it back to 3. Go ahead and create the next one. You'll notice it's really easy to create new members, especially in this case where the position is all that changes. You just go in and change whatever variables you need to change. Okay, so now I have all these different positions and how far it's extended. The next thing I'm going to do is change this so that those fingers are open. So what I'll do, I'll create a new member, call it open, and I'll come in here and in occurrence overrides, I'll say replace part, and I have closed grip or open grip, and I'll just say open grip, and it makes that update. So if I go back, you can see the difference there. Now what we're going to look at is how you can use these in other documents. So let's say I go in here and I want to create a drawing. I'm going to run the run the drawing view wizard. I'm going to select the robot arm. Oops, I have to go back and save it. Okay, so when I run the drawing view wizard, you'll notice that instead of going straight to the first step that you usually see, it asks you what family member you want to use. So you can just select one from that drop-down and use that in your drawing. And then you can go ahead and place whatever view you want wherever. Okay, that's all we're going to cover today. We went over family of parts and family of assemblies, the two different types of family of assemblies, the alternate position, and the actual family of assemblies where you change what parts are in it. All of our lunch bites are up on our YouTube channel, so you can go up there and see the replay of this and any of them that you might have missed. We also have our upcoming training dates for the training that we offer. You can also go to our website to see other training that we offer. I'd like to thank you guys for your time. Hope you found this session to be informative and let you know some other options that are out there for things that are available in Solid Edge. Once again, thank you for your time.